did you pick up the phone and call him and say, hey, I know I've been harboring a resentment and I am now kind of over it?
I haven't done that.
No.
I haven't done that. I'd like to do it on, national radio.
In the golden days of Saturday Night Live, Mike Myers and Dana Carvey were inseparable. Comedic soulmates who gave us Wayne's World and one of the most iconic sketches in TV history. But off camera, the bond that made audiences laugh was quietly unraveling. It wasn't scandal, it wasn't shouting, it was silence, ego, and one pinky finger. When Myers debuted Dr. Evil in Austin Powers, Carvey immediately recognized something eerily familiar. The voice, the mannerisms, the pinky to the mouth, taken from his private impersonation of SNL boss Lorne Michaels. He never confronted Myers directly, but the wound festered for years, creating a quiet distance neither truly closed. Today, they're polite, professional, but not close. We never really talked about it, Carvey said decades later. Their story isn't just about comedy, it's about how fame, creative credit, and silence can tear even the strongest friendships apart. Here's why their friendship never fully recovered. Once comedy brothers Mike Myers and Dana Carvey first connected on Saturday Night Live in the early 90s, forming a comedic chemistry that fans still adore. From 1989 to 1993, they riffed night after night, building memorable characters like Wayne Campbell and Garth Algar. Their shared joke style, the goofy chatter, comedic timing, and genuine friendship shone through, turning Wayne's World into a phenomenon. Both started as scrappy comics chasing laughs and recognition, but on camera, they became more than co-workers. They were partners, riffing, laughing, and headbanging in sync. It felt authentic. As Carvey later joked, we were just two goofballs riffing on stage. That bond fueled their best work, turning wild sketches into timeless laughs. Yet beneath this laughter, fault lines formed. As popularity grew, so did control and ambition. Myers, in particular, began taking creative lead on scripts, casting, and direction. While Carvey supported, seeds of competition began sprouting, small at first, but enough to poison easy camaraderie. What unfolded wasn't drama, it was gradual emotional drift. Their brotherhood wasn't severed overnight, it frayed. And by the time Wayne's World 2 premiered, their partnership had shifted. One became the star driver, the other became a passenger in his own story. Their friendship hit one of its first major cracks when Carvey developed a beloved backstage impersonation of Lorne Michaels, the SNL creator. Carvey used a pinky-to-mouth gesture and deadpan tone to amuse castmates. It was private, but secretly, Myers noticed. He later adapted that gesture for Dr. Evil, his iconic villain in Austin Powers. That small act created a rift rooted in creative ownership, and it would ripple through their relationship for years to come. Let's explore how that gesture sparked deeper tension. The Lorne Michaels impersonation. Dana Carvey's private impersonation of Lorne Michaels was legendary among SNL castmates. He'd mimic Michaels's deadpan tone and signature pinky gesture, pinky to lips, as an inside joke, one meant to relieve backstage stress. No audience saw it. It wasn't Carvey's spotlight. It was his off-camera comic relief. That gesture, shared only in the dressing room, should have remained harmless. But Mike Myers noticed. He began studying it and later repurposed that gesture. Pinky near mouth, slow speech cadence, for his character, Dr. Evil in Austin Powers. Subtle, but strikingly similar. Carvey didn't publicly call it out. On Howard Stern in 2016, he said, "I did kind of go, about Myers performing the mimicry. He was willing to laugh it off, but admitted privately that it stung. That was when I started to feel like, maybe this isn't just flattery. The incident planted a seed of resentment. A backstage joke had become public gold, and Carvey felt scraped. The line between homage and theft blurred, and their dynamic shifted. Creativity, once shared, now had unsaid tensions simmering underneath. Tension grew when Carvey noticed Dr. Evil's success in Austin Powers stole a bit of his shine. That character's popularity wasn't just comedic. It translated into money, fame, and a franchise. Carvey felt the moment his creativity surfaced in Myers' work, it vanished again behind bigger spotlight. Let's examine how the success of Dr. Evil and the Austin Powers phenomenon deepened their divide into something harder to ignore. Dr. Evil sparks resentment. When Austin Powers premiered in 1997, Dr. Evil exploded into cultural fame. The character's slow speech, pinky gesture, and deadpan delivery became instantly iconic, and they were eerily reminiscent of Carvey's hidden routine. But now, millions were seeing it on film. Carvey admitted on Stern, "When I saw Mike do it, I did kind of go, He didn't publicly accuse Myers, recognizing he'd benefited from SNL, but privately, he felt a sting. Creative warmth shifted toward resentment. The success of Dr. Evil created a creative gap. Myers took a gesture, shared privately, and spun it into a money-making phenomenon. Carvey watched as his own comic ideas became worldwide property without acknowledgement. It felt like a silent betrayal. This moment became a turning point. Private strains rippled into public distance. Their close camaraderie became strained as Carvey wondered whether collaboration still existed or if his comedic ideas were being silently harvested. From the backstage to the screen, laughter turned complicated. Creative competition. As Wayne's World became a hit film in 1992, the dynamic between Mike Myers and Dana Carvey shifted, somewhat subtly at first, then with growing tension. Myers took on greater creative control, rewriting scripts, influencing casting, and shaping the comedic tone. Meanwhile, Carvey, once co-pilot in the duo's journey, found himself gradually sidelined. Evidence emerged in the sequel Wayne's World 2, 1993, when Myers chose to focus the script around Wayne Campbell, scaling back on Carvey's character, Garth Algar. Sources and interviews suggest Myers didn't want to split attention, hoping to preserve the central narrative arc. Carvey, though professionally gracious, felt the shift personally. He said later that he felt more like support than a creative partner. This imbalance wasn't dramatic. It wasn't lit by headlines or media conflict, but it manifested in the duo's behavior. Fewer shared scenes, distant red carpet appearances, and a sense that something essential had changed. Their on-screen camaraderie was still there. Off-screen, the warmth had cooled perceptibly. Yet both remained civil. No lawsuits, no feuds. The fallout played out quietly, a kind of emotional drift rather than a sudden rift. But beneath the laughter, a recalibration was happening. From brothers in comedy to leading supporting roles, creating a dynamic that would influence personal loyalties and future decisions. While their partnership morphed under creative strain, family bonds were further tested behind the scenes. Directors and crew from that era recall both comedians at odds. Struggles escalated as success mounted and control deepened. By the time of Wayne's World 2, even production dynamics became tense. Myers was labeled high maintenance, and Carvey quietly wondered if the brotherhood was lost forever. Let's explore how those production moments added pressure and laid the groundwork for their long silence. Tense production memories. Behind the camera, The tension became more tangible during the filming of Wayne's World and its sequel. Director Penelope Spheris recalled that Myers demanded specific adjustments on set, camera angles, costume tweaks, and line deliveries, raising eyebrows among crew members. His perfectionism, she said, grew more pronounced as his star rose. At times, production records hint at a shifting atmosphere. Crew members described Myers as high maintenance and more involved than an actor ordinarily would be. Carvey, who appeared less in the sequel, watched with a mix of concern and hurt as his scene time faded and a deeper hierarchical structure emerged. These power dynamics weren't openly discussed. They didn't involve shouting matches or public blow-ups, but Carvey sensed a change. He witnessed the shift from their creative duo mentality to experience Myers at a distance. His comedic counterpart was still by his side, but not on the same level creatively or emotionally. Despite this, both professionals maintained mutual politeness. On set, Carvey complimented Myers' performance, and Myers did not dismiss Carvey's presence. But afterward, interviews almost never paired them. And where camaraderie once ruled, they now shared space, guided more by protocol than brotherhood. The crew sensed it. The audiences felt it. The energy on set had quietly turned more businesslike than brotherly. After the sequel's release, the duo didn't collapse in drama, but they did grow distant. Following red carpet appearances, they went their separate ways professionally and socially. That led to a long stretch of silence. No joint interviews, no late-night talk show appearances together. Even after Wayne's World 2, they didn't speak much. So let's explore how this distance evolved into 2 decades of unspoken rift, until time began to thaw their relationship. Silent drift. After Wayne's World 2 premiered in late 1993, Mike Myers and Dana Carvey never publicly feuded. There was no scandal, no lawsuits or verbal sparring. Instead, their friendship melted into near silence, replaced by polite nods at award shows or reunion sketches. They shrank from spotlight together, their interactions growing rarer. Carvey admitted in interviews that he and Myers never really talked about it. The space between them wasn't created by a dramatic betrayal, but by quiet omission, a failure to address the growing distance caused by creative mismatch and unspoken hurt. No friendship breakup, but no close connection either. Public appearances amplified the shift. Their reunions, SNL's 20th anniversary in 2013, or the 2019 Oscar spot, were brief and formal. On camera, they nailed the line delivery and inside jokes. Off-screen, though, they had little warmth. The man who once described Carvey as his comedy brother was now a friendly face. Cordial, distant, but not the same person. That absence stretched for years. Yet beneath the surface, mutual respect remained intact. The shift from brotherhood to acquaintance is tragic, not fiery. For both, time made talking possible again, but they had to learn new ways to connect around old scars. Their story evolved from laughter to silence, with the future still unwritten. Cold reconciliation begins. In 2013, 2 decades after their drift, Dana Carvey and Mike Myers found themselves in the same room. Saturday Night Live's 40th anniversary reunion. It wasn't dramatic, no big moment, just 2 comedians sharing a handshake and a polite nod. But behind the scenes, it marked the first reopening of their private Cold War. They didn't discuss the past, not yet, but just showing up in the same room and posing for pictures was something. Their interactions remained professional, but some warmth was visible again. "We started talking," Carvey said later, "and I think that kind of kicked the door open a little bit." That door opened wider in 2019. when the pair reunited on stage at the Oscars, reprising Wayne and Garth to introduce Bohemian Rhapsody. The audience roared with nostalgia, but the subtext was more powerful. These two were willing to stand beside each other again. Then came 2021, when Uber Eats ran a Super Bowl ad featuring the duo and Cardi B. This marked their first scripted collaboration in decades. Carvey said the shoot was relaxed and fun, a rare moment of just riffing again like old times. The audience saw familiar banter. The comedians rediscovered old rhythms. But behind these cheerful commercials and nostalgic sketches, a deeper truth remained. Reunions on camera didn't necessarily mean full reconciliation behind the scenes. While their creative bond was being slowly rediscovered, the personal bridge was still under reconstruction. For Carvey and Myers, reconnection wasn't just about reviving a sketch. It was about confronting the wall they never really addressed. Let's now explore what lies beneath that surface. The guarded closeness that followed the thaw. Still guarded. Despite appearances, the trust between them never fully returned. Dana Carvey described their bond as warmer now, but added a caveat: we just have too much history. That history, Dr. Evil, creative control, years of silence, left scars that didn't heal overnight. Carvey has always been more open in interviews. He joked to People magazine in 2022 that therapy helped him navigate the complicated emotions tied to Mike. It's like, how do you let something go that never got said? He mused. You don't forgive someone for hurting you. You forgive them for being themselves. Meanwhile, Myers remained characteristically silent. He rarely discusses the past, especially the Carvey tension. When asked about Dr. Evil's origins, he acknowledges Lorne Michaels as inspiration, but never mentions Carvey's impression. That silence says a lot. Whether from guilt or strategy, it's a gap that keeps their friendship from returning to its old form. In interviews and public interactions, the duo appears friendly but not quite intimate. They work well together in skits, laugh at old jokes, and pose for fans. But their interactions remain structured, rehearsed even. It's not hostility, but it's not deep trust either. It's professionalism laced with personal history, a balance neither wants to upset again. The distance between Dana Carvey and Mike Myers is no longer angry, but it's still very real. They've learned to coexist, to joke, and collaborate when needed. But true friendship requires vulnerability, and that door may never fully reopen. So why did their rift last so long? What prevented these once best friends from reconnecting sooner? To understand that, we have to look at the emotional dynamics behind fame, competition, and unresolved hurt. Why the rift lasted, at its heart, the Myers-Carvey rift wasn't about a single impression or creative credit. It was about emotional territory, the feeling of betrayal without the words to express it. Both comedians are introverted by nature. Neither confronted the issues directly, and so the resentment festered quietly. Myers, known for keeping his emotions tightly controlled, likely avoided direct conversations about Carvey's feelings. He kept the narrative tidy. Credit to Lorne, silence on the rest. Carvey, for his part, felt the sting, but refused to air it publicly. That avoidance turned into a vacuum that grew with time. Therapists might call this an unprocessed wound. Fans expected the goofy duo to reconcile easily. But what they saw on screen wasn't what lived off it. Carvey once said, "The public doesn't understand that a lot of what you see is just part of the job. The rest is harder." That silence defined their relationship for years. They never shouted. They never feuded. They just stopped talking. The passage of time didn't fix the pain. It simply gave it a quieter form. When they finally reconnected, it wasn't about hugging it out. It was about acknowledging the history and agreeing to carry it, not erase it. Public versus private personas. To the world, Mike Myers and Dana Carvey are forever linked as Wayne and Garth, two slacker legends who brought joy, catchphrases, and guitar solos to a generation. But off-screen, their personas couldn't be more different. Myers, famously private and meticulous, rarely offers glimpses into his emotional life. Carvey, by contrast, has leaned into vulnerability, speaking openly about therapy, fatherhood, and pain. Fans often confuse the characters with the men. They expect Wayne and Garth to mirror their creators. But Myers is not Wayne. He's careful, structured, sometimes hard to read. And Carvey is no longer the wide-eyed Garth. He's more introspective, reflective. This difference became more pronounced as the years passed, especially during interviews and solo appearances. Carvey, in recent years, has been candid about the impact of the Dr. Evil situation. He once said, "I never thought Mike did it maliciously, but it hurt." That willingness to acknowledge the emotional cost has earned Carvey empathy from fans. Myers, on the other hand, has chosen silence. Not denial, just absence. When asked about Carvey or their time on SNL, he usually shifts to broader memories or comedy philosophies. The result is a paradox. On stage, they click effortlessly. Backstage, they live on different frequencies. Their story reminds us that even iconic partnerships are made of people, not characters. And sometimes, the characters are easier to maintain. The dynamic between Carvey and Myers is more than comedy. It's a case study in how public fame hides private complexity. And while we can admire the sketches and laugh at the lines, the real emotion lies in what they've said or not said over the years. Let's now turn to their actual words, the few quotes that reveal what each man truly felt and what they chose to keep locked away. What they've said. For decades, Dana Carvey said nothing about the Dr. Evil controversy, but in 2016 on The Howard Stern Show, he broke the silence. "Yeah," he admitted with a laugh, "I'm in therapy now, so I can talk about it. That pinky thing? That was mine." The comment was light, but it landed with weight. It was the first time he publicly acknowledged the betrayal. He didn't accuse Myers outright. Instead, Carvey called it creative overlap, but the emotion was clear. When Stern asked if he felt ripped off, Carvey paused. "I did kind of go, he said. That hesitation said more than a direct accusation ever could. It was the sound of a friend still processing a wound. In contrast, Myers has remained tight-lipped. When asked in 2020 about the inspiration behind Dr. Evil, he only credited Lorne Michaels. No mention of Carvey. No elaboration. That omission still stings some fans who believe Myers could have offered a nod, a thank you, even a joke to smooth things over. Yet, Carvey holds no public grudge. In 2022, he told people, "We've become very, very close friends, but we never really talked about that thing. Maybe we never will." It's a relationship defined not by blow-ups or apologies, but by avoidance. In their world, silence speaks volumes. Their quotes offer a glimpse into an unresolved relationship, one stitched together with respect, distance, and quiet compromise. But beyond what they've said lies what we can learn. Fame, especially in comedy, isn't just about laughter. It's about ego, memory, and ownership. What happened between Carvey and Myers wasn't unique. In fact, It teaches us something vital about the cost of collaboration. Lessons in friendship and fame. The story of Mike Myers and Dana Carvey is, in many ways, the story of creative fame itself. At its heart is a simple truth. When two artists build something iconic together, the emotional ownership can get blurred. Add ego, studio politics, and a global spotlight, and even the strongest friendships can fracture. Their story teaches that creative credit matters, not because of money or contracts, but because ideas are personal. A pinky to the mouth, a cadence, a vibe. These aren't just comedy beats. They're pieces of identity, built over years, honed in safe spaces, and shared with trust. When one is taken without acknowledgement, it hurts. It also shows how fame can isolate. Myers, in the spotlight post-Austin Powers, had to protect his image. Carvey, whose star faded somewhat in the late 90s, struggled with feeling left behind. In this uneven terrain, no one felt safe enough to talk. And so they didn't. Healing, when it finally came, wasn't cinematic. It was slow, awkward, and partial. But it was real. They began sharing stages again, laughing again, even if they never quite said all that needed to be said. That's the other lesson here. Reconciliation isn't always about fixing everything. Sometimes it's just about finding a way forward. And so we arrive at the present, decades after Wayne's World, after SNL, after Super Bowl ads, and backstage tension. Where do Carvey and Myers stand now? Their history is long, their bond complicated. But one thing is clear. Whatever they once had, and whatever they lost, they've managed to preserve something rare: mutual respect, born of a shared legacy. Where they stand today. Today, Mike Myers and Dana Carvey perform together when nostalgia calls. But it's no longer about building something new. It's about honoring what once was. They remain professional, cooperative, even warm. But best friends? Probably not. Carvey has said he values their legacy. Myers has praised Carvey's genius, but neither speaks often of emotional closeness. Their relationship now is functional, friendly, more than friends. They show up, they smile, they move on. It's a reminder that not all partnerships are meant to last forever, and that's okay. What matters is that they created something unforgettable. And in a world of fleeting fame, that's no small thing. Their story began in laughter. Two rising stars riffing backstage at Saturday Night Live, goofing off, and building the kind of bond audiences could feel. Mike Myers and Dana Carvey were more than co-stars. They were a team. Together, they turned Wayne's World into a cultural phenomenon. Yet decades later, that vibrant connection faded into something colder, a cautious friendship built on nostalgia, not closeness. And that evolution reveals more about fame and creative ownership than most people ever see. Carvey once said, "We've come full circle," referencing their work together in the 2021 Uber Eats commercial and their return to Wayne and Garth. But even in that moment, there was hesitation. "We never really talked," he added, almost as a quiet admission that something still sits between them. It's not anger. It's not betrayal in the traditional sense. It's the kind of unspoken tension that grows in the silence where conversations should have happened but didn't. What really happened between them wasn't explosive. It was subtle. A missed credit, an imitated voice, a pinky to the lip that should have been acknowledged. Carvey never sued. He never went public in outrage. He carried it quietly. But the quiet turned into space, and that space hardened. As he once joked in an interview, "I'm in therapy now," referencing Dr. Evil's resemblance to his Lorne Michaels impression. Jokes like that aren't always just jokes. Their story teaches us something simple but profound. Comedy can hide pain, and chemistry doesn't always mean closeness. Audiences projected a friendship that, for years, wasn't real anymore. Off-screen, Myers built walls. Carvey stayed guarded. The public assumed reconciliation meant reconnection, but sometimes history replaces intimacy. Sometimes what we call peace is just politeness. Yet, despite the hurt, the cold patches, and the missing conversations, there is still something beautiful here. They never became enemies. They never tore each other down. Instead, they chose respect from a distance. They chose to honor their shared legacy, even if they couldn't fully restore it. So where does that leave them today? They're not the best friends they once were, but they're not strangers either. They are two artists forever linked by one of the most iconic sketches in television history. Friendly, respectful, but not close. And maybe that's okay, because not every broken friendship needs to be mended. Some just need to be remembered.